test at the freshman campus, then goes on to the high school and has to retake the test as a failure. So unfortunately, the high school is being held accountable for 250 minimum additional test takers in just one subject area that had previously failed. And that causes a tremendous burden at the high school. In order to be able to recommend to be able to report all 9th through 12th grade students together, we need to have one campus number. Well, if you have one campus number, you can only have one campus principal. But this year, in our 40 group comparison, the schools that reported their freshman students separately are not going to meet the accountability requirements because the high school was made responsible for a whole lot of additional failures that had failed at the freshman, as well as being made accountable for a new test, which was part of the accountability system. We think that with time we can definitely overcome that, but as we're being compared to other high schools in the state, and those 40, we should not be the only high school who reports 10th through 12th grade. When we combine the scores, 9th through 12th grade, we do as well as everybody else like us. That is not to say that we do not need to improve how our students perform, but if we're going to be compared to the rest of the state, well then let's be compared as a similar group and not just something different. Like I said, in our current 40 group system, the two schools that didn't make it reported 10th through 12th by themselves. Again, not to say that we don't need to get better. There's absolute room for improvement. But we also want to be fair.
Mr. Oberfeld has a question.
So even though we're only changing the title there, the individual running the freshman campus will still have total authority over his campus there because of the physical separation. If he's going to hold a staff meeting, does he have to contact the high school principal now and say, I'm going to do this? No, he's got full authority?
It's full authority and autonomy, except with the supervisor that they already have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Any question? I was just talking about Mr. Smith. I mentioned it.
Some of our organizational changes that we made late last year were tied to those ratings, right or no?
Can you ask again?
The organizational changes that we were making later in the year last year were tied to performance rating of the high school. Are we concerned about, is this going to, this move, would it increase that by default?
Yeah.
I know it's probably the wrong place to ask this question.
Well, no, everything's public. I'm just having a hard time understanding the question. I apologize.
Okay, we made organizational changes late last year based off of performance out of the high school.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And by making this adjustment, will it by default improve that performance of the high school?
It will improve the outcome,
Exactly.
but the performance is still the performance. We still have to
what
contend
you're
with that.
saying there. I'm just saying, will it I'm not wanting to sound like we're trying to manipulate the data, but it feels like that we're trying to manipulate the data by making it.
Okay, yes, sir. And again, I want to be entirely transparent. If we have today, If we have a 9th through 12th grade system, then we make the mark. We absolutely make the mark. So absolutely, in trying to combine 9th through 12th grade and being compared to the rest of the state, it puts us on the same playing field as everybody else. But I want to be clear that it does not change our performance. We have room to grow when it comes to our performance. This just puts us on an even playing field with the other schools that we're being compared with. But we need to improve our passing rate, particularly for students who fail the test the first time. We need to do a whole lot better when they test for a second time. And we have to do a lot better with first-time test takers, particularly in the area of English 1 and English 2. But yes, that move would automatically change our rating. Not this year. We can't do anything about it this year. We have to carry that badge the rest of the year.
Would that have changed our perception of last year's high school performance rate?
No, sir. We needed to get better last year, and we need to get better this year. And that was made clear to everybody since the beginning of last year.
Okay, what about, how does this impact the attendance performance?
It combines them. I think that I'd have to go back and review the records, but I don't believe that the attendance rate from the freshman to the high school is significantly different to where it would automatically increase the high school's attendance rate. I'll check the numbers to be specific, but I think that there was maybe a 1-2% difference. It's not like we're going to go from 97% or from 93% to 97% by combining these groups.
Yeah, we were what, at 93?
High school.
93. And there was how many students?
About 1,000, close to 2,000. I was going to say 1,007, but it's probably closer to 2,000.
Okay, and how many on the freshman campus?
Freshman campus is approximately 650.
And our attendance in that, in our freshman campus was at
Probably 95%.
94?
Okay, so, yeah, it's not gonna help that weighted average much. It helped it, but,
Very small.
and what are we considering acceptable?
Sir?
What are we considering acceptable?
For attendance,
Yeah, 97?
I think that at the secondary level, what would be great would be 97%. Acceptable for the whole year would be anything above 95%, considering where we're at.
Any other comments, questions?
I just wondered about the title. Vice principal, you have an assistant principal there too, right?
Yes.
So, just the vice is different.
Yes, the vice principal is usually higher than the assistant principal, and the high school has had this set up in the past. It isn't anything new.
Because they still call them vice principals anyway, right?
Yeah.
We're going to make a distinction here. Okay.
And just to clarify, the vice principal will report to
The vice principal will report to the
high school principal?
no, will report to the chief instructional officer. They will cooperate for the master schedule, but they will report to the chief instructional officer as they have now.
And so the combining of the campuses for the purposes of the report is really just a technicality. The
Absolutely.
freshman campus will still be known as the Delaware Freshman School.
Yes. And they will have their independent faculty meetings, and
The only thing that changes is that number.
it's how we report in PEIMS. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Mr. Mesa?
I don't want to delay this meeting any longer, but to me, it would seem that a vice principal would report to the high school principal.
If we were in a traditional setting, yes, sir, always they would report to the high school principal. But the campuses have historically been separate. And I think that it's a large enough school where I personally would not want our high school principal overseeing a close to 3,000 student operation. I don't think that it is a right organizational move to have one person oversee a 3,000 student organization. I think that autonomy and that responsibility is important. And I think that having them report to the chief instructional officer, as they're doing now, is the appropriate thing to do.
Wouldn't you normally house freshmen in any other scenario, high school,
Yes, sir, you would.
which would amount to over, let's say, 3,000 students?
If we were a one high school organization, yes, sir, that would be the case.
Because I still have difficulty understanding the title vice principal not reporting to a principal.
Obviously, I'm the one that is visualizing this. We want to maintain the freshmen's autonomy. We're doing this for PEIMS reporting.
No, I understand that. The only thing is, quite frankly, the high school principal has a lot of bearing in what goes on at freshman school because they're the incoming students as well.
We
That's
could
my
definitely
opinion.
make an argument for that. I don't disagree with you, Mr. Mesa, but I think that cooperation and the oversight by the instructional officer provides for that type of cooperation you're talking about.
All right. The recommendation, please.
Yes, ma'am. It is a recommendation of the administration that the title change from freshman principal to freshman vice principal and the revised administrative job classification listing be approved as presented this evening.
We've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve? Mr. Chavita, second. Mr. Overfelt, any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it. You don't have anything in closed session?
Oh, yes. we
Oh.
do.
Sorry. Closed session. It is now still August the 15th at 7:26. Board of Trustees will recess this open session and convene in a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D and E. We're able to do this under Sections 551.071 through 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.084. pursuant to 551.074, discussion of personnel or to hear complaints against personnel, and 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. Number 1, discussion of personnel report to include new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations, reassignments. And number 2, discussion of salary adjustments to include, but not limited to, the following justifications: service credit, master's degree, and stipends. All final votes and actions or decisions will be taken in open session. We are now in closed session. Thank you.
Awesome. All righty, it is 8:25 p.m., Monday, August 15th, 2016. And the board will now reconvene into open session. No action was taken, which will take us into 17A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements and resignations. Dr. McNamara.
Good evening, Mr. Overfelt, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. At this time, the administration requests it is the recommendation of the administration that the following applicants be approved as presented this evening: Miss Miriam Cardenas, Del Rio Middle School Spanish teacher; Angela Sullivan, Dr. Femine Calderon, special ed teacher; Blended Academy, Miss Laura Ponce, MAPS teacher; and Del Rio High School, Miss Cynthia Welch, counselor, lead counselor.
Thank you, ma'am. We've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Mesa, seconded by Mr. Chavita. Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you. B, consideration to approve salary adjustments. None this evening, correct? That's correct. Awesome. Under 18, nothing on the superintendent's report, which brings us to 19, adjournment. Being no further business before this board, is there a motion to adjourn? Ms. Haynes, Mr. Chavita, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned at 8:27. Thank you.